Today we're going to be discussing why I moved from Apple to Android, and we're going to also be talking about why I like Android. So let's get on with the video. Now previously I was an iPhone user, solely I just used iOS on every device I had, and I've had an iPhone for about 10 years now. I've always wondered what Android is like since I've never used it until this point, and after 10 years of using an iPhone, this is my experience with Android. So I opted to get the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus. Now it has a very sleek form factor. I've noticed that the display on this phone is really good. You can see a lot of things really clearly, and the colours are really amazing on this phone. The colours on this phone look really sharp. Now I did use an iPhone X before, and where they're both OLED displays, apart from Samsung is a Super AMOLED display, where they're both OLED, they still have the same sort of screens, but Android is just a little bit better, although I have noticed some screen burning. Mine's not as severe as some other people's. This is just where some of the pixels on the phone die out, since it's all red, blue, and I believe green, and where some of them die out, so then the picture quality isn't as great as what it used to be. That is a slight problem. Now, with the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus, you're looking to buy these used nowadays, since you can't really find them new, and you're looking to spend about £200 in the UK if you want to get your hands on one of these phones. Now it does include 4GB of RAM with 64GB, which is my variation, although obviously with an SD card slot you can use that as expandable storage, and I think it goes up to 256GB of data. Now that is really good if you're someone that takes photos a lot, or somebody that just needs a lot of storage on their phones because they have a lot of apps and things like that. But personally, I don't use a lot of apps and data. I just stuck a 64GB card in mine, and now I have 128GB. And that is something that I really noticed between Apple and Android, is that storage upgrades in iPhones are so much more expensive than with Android, since you can just add an SD card, which I've never understood why you can't do that with an iPhone. Now, as well as that, is it keeps the old headphone jack. Now, since I was an iPhone user, I didn't really have to worry about this anyway, because I use wireless headphones, and what that basically means is I don't really need the headphone jack on this Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus. But if you were somebody that needed it, then it would definitely be a good idea to plug in some headphones or whatever, especially if you already have decent headphones that you don't want to trade out for using an Apple device, since you either have to use a dongle, which is very easy to lose, and the sound quality isn't probably going to be as great since it's like a dongle running through that, but with the headphone jack it just adds that extra little bit of convenience for people that have headphones already. Now another thing is that I noticed that there's a lot more customization. Things like widgets and things they're really underrated, especially coming from an iPhone, especially just being able to unlock your phone and see what the weather's like, or being able to customize your device in a way which looks really minimal or just looks really good, and it's all accustomed to what you like and what you want from your phone. As well as that, I noticed that there's a lot more things with, you can customize icons. You can't do that with an iPhone unless you have a jailbroken device, which is often what I turned to when I needed to customize my iPhone. However, this does void your warranty, so it's not necessarily a good option, although you could just restore your device if it ever comes to it that you need to take it for repairs, since if you restore it, it removes all of the jailbroken data, which basically means that it will go to its normal original state. But never mind, it's just the extra convenience that adds. You don't have to wait for a jailbreak to come out. You can just quickly change what your icons look like, and I'll give you an example because I didn't really like the stock Android icons, so I did change them, and I'm going to show you what they look like. So as you can see, mine are kind of like a dark sort of icon with a white texture, but it's only because I have that customization. I have that ability to change what I like to the device, but iPhone doesn't really, Apple doesn't really give you that option with many of their devices. Sure, you can change the wallpaper, but it's not really personal to you. It's just, I like to change the looks of my phone, and if I can do that, then it's better for everybody. Another thing that I noticed was the apps. You can get a lot more apps on the Play Store, although people say that apps go on to the App Store quicker, so for Apple's variant. Samsung definitely does have a lot of more, definitely has a lot more apps. However, the chance of you getting a virus on your Android device is a higher risk. Obviously, you have the same risk with a jailbroken iPhone, but because you have such customization and the Play Store isn't as regulated as Apple's App Store, you do have more chance of getting bugs, but this obviously means you just have to make sure that you know what you're installing, because no one would really go out and install something that, you know, they don't do research on, especially if you're smart enough. Just make sure that like it's from a trusted source or a trusted developer. But as long as you do that, then it shouldn't really become a big issue. It's just as using a jailbroken iPhone. Now, what I really did miss from the iPhone X was the fingerprint scanner. Now, this is able to use Face ID, although it's not very good. It is decent, it's not as fast as Apple's. However, if you do the fingerprint on the back of the phone, it does unlock a lot quicker. So the camera is also very good. I'll show you some photos that I got with it. The selective focus is also a very good feature in the camera app. A lot of things that I noticed in the camera app were that, you know, that you get a lot more editing tools and things like that, which is really handy when you're trying to make a photo look better. And as well as that, you can also adjust the blur in the background, which is something that is present in iPhones, but it just isn't that great. So if I show you now, if I do a face unlock, that's how long it takes. So if I do it in front of the camera, so as you guys can see, it's not the fastest thing in the world, but it is definitely okay. But I just prefer to use the fingerprint scanner. So if I show you, I'll tell you 3, 2, 1. So you see it unlocks the device very quickly. However, you do sometimes get confused with the camera and the fingerprint sensor, but that will go away after a certain amount of time of using the device. I noticed when I first got it, touching the lens, but after a while you just get used to touching the fingerprint scanner. A lot of people say it's an issue, but I haven't really noticed it when I used the device for a long period of time, which is something that reviewers don't often do. They'll buy the phone, first impressions, then they'll give a review, but they haven't used the device for a long amount of time. So it just takes a little bit of time to get used to it, but after you do, it's really quick and it's really fast to unlock. The Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus is a phone that I'd recommend to everybody that wants more customization from their phone, or maybe even more power, because in 2020 phones nowadays are very powerful in terms of how fast their processors are. Your opening applications is going to be fast, and everything like that is going to be really good for current day use. Although when you're buying a used phone, make sure that it doesn't have too much screen burn-in. But with that said, it's been TechDot and I'm out.